bass kick.
Think about it. 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 Think about it.
Biggest thing that's ever happened.
Breakdown.
All right, good morning and welcome to this September 13, Tuesday Board of County Commissioners meeting. Our first order of business is to call the meeting to order, and we do have all 5 commissioners present on the dais. And our second order is the invocation, and this morning our invocation is going to be given by, if I'm reading this correctly, Don Staton from Church for All Nations. Did I pronounce the name correctly? And is he here today? All right, it does not appear that he is present. If I could ask Commissioner Gonzalez to give us a prayer. I know I'm surprising you, but if you could offer an invocation for us this morning. Please, everybody stand and pray in your own way.
Lord God and Father above, we ask you to come upon this group and upon our community for a blessing upon all those here and for us, that we ask for your wisdom, that we do good things. And we thank you for the grace and mercy that you provided our community and our country. And we ask it for all our leaders and all those around the world. And this we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for that prayer. And Commissioner Williams, if you could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you very much. Let's move on to item number 3.
Item number 3, staff emergency items. Mr. Chair, I'm unaware of any staff emergency items.
Very good. Item number 4.
Item number 4, changes, postponements, notice of next meeting. There is one slight change to the agenda. After item 12, we will recess to hold the work session. Afterwards, we'll reconvene to hold a vote on item 13. The next meeting of the Board of County Commissioners is September 27th at 9 a.m. with a land use meeting following that at 1 p.m.
Thank you very much. Let us move on now then to item number 5.
Item number 5 is the consent calendar inclusive of items 5A through 5F1.
All right, is there anybody in the audience that would like to comment on any of the items on the consent calendar? Yes, please come forward if you, on the consent calendar, yes, for items on the consent calendar. Is there anybody online? Okay, very good. I'll bring this up to the dais. Are there any questions from any of the commissioners regarding any of the items on the consent calendar? Yes, Commissioner Williams.
Yes, I do have some comments. I read through the road safety plan, very well written. And I was just looking through, first of all, the roads that were the major roads considered as an area of focus. I noticed Baptist, Jackson Creek, and Struthers was listed on that. That's certainly one of our busier intersections. But also Baptist, Hodgen, and Roller Coaster was listed as one of the intersections of a priority list. And obviously, we've had some serious problems in that area before. So I'm happy to see that on the list. I also noticed in the many design and recommendations in the back, it was really interesting to see how many cost dollars. And also how many are going to involve increased law enforcement. As you know, our sheriff's primary responsibility is to take care of the jail. Getting law enforcement out on the streets is not as easy as it seems. And so we always need to respect our law enforcement and understand the strains that they are under. And hopefully as the years go by, we will be able to continue to help them perform their job. I think some of the strain will be alleviated by having a Falcon substation. So those are my comments on the road safety plan.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate those comments. Are there any other commissioners that have comments or questions for any item on the consent calendar? All right. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move approval of items 5A through 5E. Was that what we were at?
F1.
F1, 5A through F1.
Second.
All right. That's been moved and seconded. Let's go ahead and proceed with the vote. Commissioner Williams.
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner.
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Aye.
Commissioner Bremer.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The consent calendar passes 5-0. Let us move on to item number 6.
Item number 6 is a land use consent calendar inclusive of item 6A.
All right, is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak on this item 6A, the land use consent calendar? And seeing, I see somebody waving. I don't know if, oh,
Can you move the agenda
could you
up?
move the agenda up?
Yeah, I'll make the call.
Is it, yeah, we still need to have it scrolled up, I believe. The other way.
The other way.
There we go. Oops, okay. All right. And while some members in the audience are contemplating those words, is there anybody online regarding this topic? Okay. I'll just ask again, is there anybody in the audience that would like to provide any comments or ask any questions regarding item 6A? All right, seeing none, I'll bring this up to the dais then. Are there any questions from any of the commissioners? Questions or comments from any of the commissioners on item 6A?
I would move approval of item 6A. It is in my commissioner district.
All right, very good. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, that's been moved and seconded. Let's go ahead and proceed with a vote. Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner?
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Aye.
Commissioner Bremer?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 5-0. Let's move now to item number 7. I don't think I see any elected officials in the audience, so I'll bring this also up to the dais. And if Commissioner Williams, you'd be willing to start with your comments today.
Yes, I would love to start. First, I have deep gratitude to my colleagues and our wonderful staff. I have had a replacement knee surgery on August 2nd. A little harder than I expected, and so I have been off and on, and I feel like a lot of people have really provided me the support that I needed to make it through that time. So thank you very much, especially to my fellow commissioners and our staff. This week on my calendar, I wanted to review, I do have the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments tomorrow. I have the Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority tomorrow afternoon. And I had one other meeting later in the week, but it'll come back to me. I wanted, though, to honor, I didn't get a chance to really honor September 11th because of being a little bit homebound. And so I wanted to honor a lady named Catherine Yancey Labori. Catherine's parents, Jean and Flo, live across from me. And they found out, they talked to their daughter the night before September 11th. She was on United Flight 175, flying out of Boston Airport. She told them that she loved them and that she was looking forward to seeing them. And she was an amazing person. She was charming and vivacious and lots of fun. She was also one of the first-class agents that day. At 9:02 a.m. or 9:06 a.m., the Yanceys were watching TV and almost knew immediately that their daughter was dead as that tower crashed into the north, as that plane crashed into the North Tower. Every year they meet together at Mitchell High School, where she's an alumni, to honor her and to present an ROTC member with a scholarship. We have a commemorative bench in our courtyard in honor of her. 21 years does not diminish the pain for this family. And I think that we always need to remember on 9/11 that the pain doesn't diminish for all of those who were lost, both civilians, firefighters, police officers, and our wonderful military servicemen. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Very nice comments, and I appreciate your remembrance of those that we've lost in 9/11. Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning to everyone. Really appreciate those comments, and I too just wanted to reflect a moment. I was so glad to see so many events happening in our community we have not forgotten, and I think that is incredibly important. And it's important that we not forget the individuals who were all lost, the first responders who responded. But also, I think it's important to never forget that there is evil in the world, and that we, unfortunately, will always have to stand guard against that. And so my family flies a flag on our flagpole every year, and we take the time to talk to our children about it, who obviously were not around and don't completely understand that significance without taking that time, showing them the video footage. They're old enough for that now, and really talking through what that meant, what we felt on those days, or on that day and the days that followed. So thank you for sharing about your neighbor's daughter. I really appreciate hearing that and knowing that there are members of our community who are still feeling the support so many years later. Over the weekend, I also participated in celebrating the Cimarron Hills Fire Department 50th anniversary. It was such a wonderful event and fantastic just to hear the stories of the beginnings of Colorado Springs and the huge transformations that have happened in that amount of time, hearing from the first fire chief and how insurmountable it seemed to many people to start a fire department in that area, which was not very populated at the time. It was just a really great reminder of our history and the strength of the folks in our county. Also this week, we have PPRTA, as Commissioner Williams mentioned. Also, I will be in Lyman on Friday, working with CCI on the proposals that we are putting forward for the legislature next year. And also lots of constituent meetings, and I believe we are looking at opening up the Platte Avenue improvements also. So really, really exciting week, lots going on.
Thank you, Commissioner. Great comments. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too want to thank everybody for the comments on 9/11, and especially there, Commissioner Williams, very heartfelt as well. I too participated, and I know several other commissioners did as well, on the Sunday's 9/11 Remembrance and Wreath Lane ceremony Sunday at Memorial Park here in Colorado Springs. And so it was a wonderful way to commemorate, to never forget, but then to also think of the resilience of this great country and all those that did suffer and have come back strong. And so I appreciated that. It was I was able to attend that and participate. And so I thank you, everybody that came out for that. I did want to highlight, I had an absolutely wonderful remainder of the weekend as well. It was my 30th Air Force Academy reunion, and great turnout. Great football game in spite of all the rain. I do apologize to any CU fans out there. Air Force played really, really well. And then just say one other thing. Next week, this Saturday, there's actually with the 15th being the start of Hispanic Heritage Month, there is a very wonderful local event, Fiestas Patrias, that will occur on Saturday. I believe it begins late morning, but goes into the early evening. So basically all afternoon downtown here. I think it's just behind us as well. So I hope people can attend. I'll be there for part of that in the late afternoon. And then next week I will be participating in annual DC Fly-In, where several of us will go down. We will meet with national leaders in defense and economics to see what we can do for our community, as well as, very importantly, we'll meet with our state congressional delegation and speak to them about our local issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate those comments. Commissioner Bremer.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I also had wanted to comment specifically on the September 11th Remembrance Ceremony on Sunday. In particular, I found one of the more moving parts of it was the presentation, the laying of 3 different wreaths. And those wreaths were, the first one was for police and fire and first responders. The next one was for all civilians lost on that day. And then the third one was presented by some local military leaders, and that was for for all those who have lost their lives, the military in the war on terror that really began that day. So I thought it was a beautiful way to honor those, and also became an opportunity to a sobering one to explain to my 7-year-old what the fire trucks with the big flag, what that was all about. And I'm sure that the conversations will get more poignant as he gets old enough to understand more details. But it was, I mean, what a way this community honors all of those, and it's really a part of who we are, all three of those sectors. So was honored to be a part of that as well. I wanted to thank all of our residents, businesses, donors who contributed to a very successful drive for teddy bears, which are handed out to kids who find themselves needing them and a little bit of comfort in our Department of Human Services. So thank you particularly to all those that made that happen, and perhaps dug deep to bring a little comfort to those who find themselves in difficult circumstances. I also have PPACG this week, and I wanted to point out that PPACG includes a region with 3 counties. It's El Paso, Teller, and Park County. That's Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments. So we have the opportunity this month for the meeting to take place in Teller County. It will be at the Teller County Sheriff's Office. So if you're a regular attendee of PPACG, pay attention to the fact that it will not be happening at the regular PPACG offices this week. It will happen in Teller County. And then also, I wanted to point out the mayor. We all attended last week the mayor's State of the City, and of course, the city of Colorado Springs is one of 7 municipalities that finds itself in El Paso County. But I do think that particular event did a great job of highlighting a partnership, and I wanted to give a thank you to John Suthers, Mayor John Suthers, for actually pointing out the partnerships and thanking the El Paso County Commissioners, taking a few minutes to do that in his speech. I was impressed and honored by that because it does take all of the different levels of government working together to make this place great.
Thank you, Commissioner, for your great comments. I'd like to express my appreciation to all of my fellow commissioners for their comments. And a couple for me. I'll also be participating in the PPACG meeting tomorrow at 9 o'clock, and I will be at the Teller County Sheriff's Office, and I appreciate Commissioner Bremer's comments about that. This is an opportunity for us to hold these meetings occasionally in our partner counties, which I think is always important, and I'm hopeful to meet a lot of people from Teller County at that meeting. Also later today at 6 p.m. I'll be participating in the NORAD Northcom September Social, and then tomorrow I'll also be participating in the Park Advisory Board meeting. That's the El Paso County Park Advisory Board. That'll be at 1:30 tomorrow in this room. And per Commissioner Gonzalez's comments, I'll be also participating in the DC Fly-In next week. This is an opportunity for many members from our community to go to DC, to talk to federal agencies that sometimes are doing things that are not helpful to our community, and sometimes they are helpful, but to continue to encourage federal behavior that is good for our community, and we take that opportunity once a year. I find those meetings to be very helpful. I learn a lot about federal initiatives that we can use to be helpful in defending our community for what we want to have. Also, prior to that DC Fly-In, I'll be traveling to Columbus, Ohio, and over the weekend, I'll be participating in the International County Managers Association on Saturday and Sunday, and be talking to several other people that are also in management of counties across the nation at that meeting. I appreciate the comments of my fellow commissioners with regard to 9/11. A little bit about my story for 9/11. I was active duty in the Air Force. when 9/11 took place. I was running the C-130E and H program at the time, and I was on the maintenance floor at Robins Air Force Base when the attack occurred. We were immediately recalled to our offices, told to get ready, and the following morning, I was given orders to surge the Air Force's C-130 fleet, all of it. And I was given a gigantic budget to get all of the maintenance parts and everything back in order as quickly as possible, and we surged the C-130 fleet. I don't think at that time people, the leadership of the country knew where they were going to be using the C-130s, but they knew they were going to be using them. So I was ordered to surge the fleet and get it all ready for combat. And later on, I served in a combat zone as a result of 9/11, and I was proud to serve my nation in doing that. And over this last weekend, I saw some social media comments from some people that were critical of things that the nation had done to protect our citizens from harm from terrorists around the world. One of those individuals was from Canada, and I responded back to that person telling them that 24 people from Canada died in New York City on 9/11. This was not just an attack on Americans. This was an attack on Western civilization. This was an attack on what's good and decent in the world. And it was not, and there were many people from all over the planet that were in the towers that day. And I'll end on my comments on 9/11, the things that I remember about it. My hometown, where I graduated from high school, was Glen Rock, New Jersey. And that's a commuter town to New York City, right on the train line that goes to the PATH tubes, and the first stop on the PATH tubes was the World Trade Center. There were 10 people in my hometown that died in those towers on that day. And unfortunately, all 10 of those working in the same company were from the same Catholic church. It was a terrible experience for my community. We suffered, as so many of the rest of us did. And I was proud to serve in the military and defend this nation against terrorism and tyranny. It was my pleasure, it was my honor, and we still do it today. And it is proper and appropriate from time to time to remember the sacrifices that were made and to remember that we have an obligation to those people to continue to serve the nation, to protect this country because of what it stands for around the world, and that is free people and free markets. So thank you very much. Those are my comments at this point, and let's move on to item number 8.
Item number 8 are community service organization reports. Mr. Chair, I'm unaware of any such reports.
Okay, very good. Item number 9.
Item number 9 is public comment on items not scheduled on the agenda.
All right. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to come down and speak to any items that are not on the agenda? It looks like we do have a few. Please make sure that you sign in and state your name. And before you get started, I'll just ask if there's anybody online. Nobody online. Okay, thank you. Please, ma'am, please proceed. I assume you've signed in already.
Yes, I did.
Okay,
yeah,
thank
I
you.
did stand. My name's LaDonna Robertson. I'm here from El Paso County, of course. And last week I touched base with you guys in regards to about canvassing that I've been doing and the information that I'm getting as I'm canvassing. Yesterday in the morning, out of the 12 houses that I talked to, 12 houses, 5 of those houses had people listed on the voter rolls. Out of 12 houses, 5 homes. Out of those 5 homes, 3 houses had one person that had not been lived there for a while, for a minimum of between 1 and 3 years. One house had 2 people with the same last name that had not been there for numerous years. And one house had 3 people for a minimum of 2 years that all had different names: Hulse, Kelly Bird, and Swindle, which I thought that Swindle was kind of interesting as far as that goes. So that was a total of 3, 4, 5, 6, well, anyway, 7, 8, 9. That was like 9 people total out of 5 houses that were voters listed that did not live at those homes. El Paso mailed approximately $460,000 ballots. Out of that, 150,000 of those ballots were used. That's 67% waste, approximately 310,000 ballots that were not used, thrown away, tossed, whatever the case may be. The problem is when you turn that into money, $1 a ballot, that's $310,000. How many potholes would that fill? There's a problem with our voter rolls, and the clerk and recorder doesn't care because he's leaving. He wants to leave thinking it's a gold standard. But ultimately, you guys are the ones who sign the paycheck. So you're the ones who go ahead and say, okay, we approve these ballots to be paid for this number of ballots to be bought. So when I have people that I'm talking to while I'm canvassing ask me, well, what's going on? I let them know. The clerk and recorder doesn't care, and you guys aren't doing anything about it. Now, this year is done for. You can't do anything about November. But there is an election coming up next April, and you guys are going to be held responsible for the number of ballots that we are paying for, okay? Because you're the ones who go ahead and give the ultimate okay on that. You guys really need to do something about the voter rolls and get these cleared up and make the clerk and recorder do something about it. Tell them you're not signing a check, period. You don't have to do that. So that's my whole thing is I'm going to start keeping track of all of these, and I'm going to start doing affidavits because this is ridiculous what I'm finding when I'm out there. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. And let's see, we have another gentleman that's coming up. Have you signed in already? Okay. Please give those to the clerk. And while you're doing that, Commissioner Bremer, I think you have some comments.
I do. I'd love to just take the opportunity to point out that the April election that was referenced is a municipal election. That is not a coordinated general election.
Thank you for your comments, Commissioner.
One of those pages that I gave you is a state statute that my friend Vern here has. If anyone would like to distribute that to you. Okay. My time started already? Okay, I'll go. Hi, I'm Chaim Goldman, resident of El Paso County and founder and director of Church Voter Guides. I have a question for you, county commissioners. If the Secretary of State was influencing the violation of state election laws in our county and you knew about it, would you have the legal fiduciary responsibility to bring the full authority of your office to stop it? What is your opinion of Jenna Griswold? What do you think of her comment that if Republicans win, that soon the U.S. won't have elections? According to Councilman Wayne Williams, as you well know, that he was purposely duped for her own political benefit. Pretty scandalous stuff, especially considering that she is running for election herself. Do you fully trust our Secretary of State? If she was committing fraud in El Paso County, would you, the county commissioners of El Paso County, want to know what it was and how you could stop it? I hope so. And I hope that the lawyer over here also gets it. I would like you to turn to the first document that I gave you. This is a letter from Jenna Griswold allowing the recount, and on the bottom it mentions a statute. That's why I put it in front of you. If you turn to the second page and looking at the statute, it says in 1023 that when the ballots are being recounted, how that procedure is done is that you randomly pick a couple of machines and then you take the voter verified records, the actual ballots that were run in the election. You don't turn on the machine, and if I have more time, because this is a longer presentation, you can ask me a question, but you take the ballots that were run through those randomly chosen machines and you run those ballots, the actual ballots through the machine, not a test stack, not a test stack, but that's what they did. So that breaks state statute. You're supposed to actually run the ballots that were used through the machine and not through the machine, that were run at the election time, hand count them, and if there is any discrepancy that can't be accounted for, then you do a hand count. If it runs clear, then you do a machine count. So why did Chuck Browerman run a test stack rather than run the actual ballots? Well, if you look down at the bottom, And the third page I gave you is actually the document that was sent in July from the Secretary of State's office to give instruction to all the county clerks of our state how to run it. And if you see, this is a rule created by an agency, that's not a statute. Do you see a variance between the actual state statute and the rules that were sent by Jenna Griswold? Well, you should, because it says that you run a test stack. You run test ballots. That is not state statute. So, in conclusion, because I wish I had more time, according to CRS 24-4-103A, any rule issued by an agency, such as the Secretary of State's office, which conflicts with a statute, shall be void. Chuck Browerman should know the state statute, but he followed the rules, the voided rules of the office.
All right, Mr. Goldman, your time is up.
So will you allow me one more minute to finish my statement?
No, sir. Just please conclude. Yes, Commissioner Gonzalez.
I do have a question. I mean, I'm sorry, it's 3 pages is hard to
I understand. I wish I had more than 3 minutes
so,
and that you would put this on the agenda, election security actually on the agenda.
So my one question here would be like, so the statute you mentioned, 102.3A and B, so the test ballots, are you saying that we didn't count, they're supposed to be counted manually and they were not by the state or by the local?
Thank you for the question. By what this statute seems to say is when a recount is ordered, you come in, there are 7 machines in the county clerk's office. You put 1 through 7 in a hat. Maybe you draw out machines 3 and 7, done at random. Then you don't turn on the machines. You go and get the actual ballots, paper ballots, the voter verified records, as it says, and you count them. You find the ones that were run through 3 and you count it. You want the ones through 7, you count it. You don't even turn the machines on. If the hand counts line up with the machine count that was done on election day, then you can run all of the ballots through the machine, which is what they did. If there's a discrepancy, you must hand count all the ballots. What I'm letting you know is that the county clerk violated state statute, never hand counted the ballots that were run through those machines. They did a test stack, which, by the way, had 53% had to be adjudicated. The test stack didn't work. And even by Jenna's rules, if the test stack doesn't work, then you need to do a hand count. So in both cases, it was violated. I'm letting you know that the Secretary of State has defrauded this county, that she has done, that she has influenced the clerk's office and the clerk staff members, who I believe are your employees or you supervise, to not follow state statute, but follow her rewriting of the law, which is void according to state statute. This was an illegally run recount. And I want you to support it.
I understand the clarification.
Please put it on the agenda.
Okay.
We'll be back soon, and this is going to the media. Please get ahead of history. Please be the heroes and protect the republic.
Thank you,
why we
sir.
elected you. And please, if you don't have anything about Jenna Griswold, you might want to use this
please,
to
sir.
protect us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to come up and speak on any items not on the agenda? And please sign in and then state your name.
Already signed in.
Just a moment. Yes.
I just want to make a quick comment because obviously these meetings are broadcast, and I want it to be clear for anyone who's not already aware that the commissioners do not comment on things when there's pending litigation, and so we can certainly take in that information and certainly we can talk to folks and do those things with our attorneys and all of those, check those against what we know to be happening, but we are, we're not going to be able to comment on those particular things. I just wanted that to be, for those who are watching, for them to be aware that we are hearing those comments, but you are not going to get a response on those, and that is for the reason stated.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it. Yes, ma'am. Please proceed.
My name is Deborah Flinchy, and I have been living in El Paso County in Colorado.
Yes, if you could just
I'm
get
very
closer to
sorry.
the microphone.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
My name is Deborah Flinchy. I've been living in Colorado Springs since 1976. I've never been involved politically till the last 2 years. And I got a little tired of yelling at the TV. if you know what I mean. When things come on the TV that make you so angry. So I finally decided I had to get involved. It's my country. I am a citizen. And we have been wronged by our election system. And I'm going to start again, as I did last week, with the quote from Steve Bannon. Elections have consequences. Stolen elections have catastrophic consequences. And I also wanted to bring us to, I am a Christian, and everything I do is referenced in that thought pattern. And what occurred to me this morning is that we are not to trust our own understanding. We are to trust in the Lord with all of our heart. We are to remember him in all we do. It didn't say some things, it's all we do, knowing that he will make our path straight. I have this week spent 14 hours studying and participating with other people and learning about what has been going on in our elections. As I told you last week, my husband and I went to the summit. That was a 12-hour drive each way and 12 hours each day, Saturday and Sunday, without stop. Now, I wouldn't be doing all this because I have plenty to do. I have 4 grandchildren, 2 daughters. That is the reason I do it. You all know that our elections are fraudulent. I went to a meeting Sunday night in Florence, 4-hour meeting, 3 experts, nationally known, world-renowned actually. Seth Keshel, Captain Seth Keshel, Dr. Frank, and Jeff O'Donnell. You have probably heard those names before. If you haven't, look them up. And they presented on specifically El Paso County, Fremont County, and Pueblo County, and showed the specific fraud in each of those counties related to election rolls and related to the ballots and what the patterns were. And folks, we all know that it is a problem. This has got to come out into the light. It makes us think that you all are complicit because you do have control over the county clerk and you have control over the elections, and you decide what election systems are going to be purchased or not purchased or renewed. And I know that Dominion contract comes up once a year, and as I understand it, it's in November or December. You must not sign that contract. That's $800,000 of our money, not your money, our money. And we don't want any machines anymore. They are all corrupt. There's not a one that isn't. Every single one of them, including
Ma'am, I'm
ours,
sorry
are
to interrupt, but
connected to the
just,
internet.
Please conclude
Thank
your
you.
remarks. Thank you. All right, is there anybody else? Yes, please come on down. And I'll just check one last time. Is there anybody online? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Lawrence Martinez. 9/11, a day that will live in infamy. No matter your political stance, no matter your economical standard, color, religion, we all shed a tear that day for those that we lost and for those that were personally touched by this event. It's something we should never forget. As summer starts to wind down, I wanted to thank Commissioner Vanderwerth and Commissioner Gonzalez. I've seen them at so many events this year. It doesn't matter what it was, they were there. Friday, Commissioner Vanderwerth came out to listen to the proposal for the Asian heritage, and I hope he shares some of that information because of what they're building is very unique. Thank you guys. You've come out and represented, even in my own district, I've seen you guys quite a bit. You're always there, regardless of the situation, be it in color or be it an event, you're there. Especially Stan. Stan comes out and doesn't matter who's at the table, he'll sit there at the table and break bread with you and talk to you. So gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else in the audience here that would like to come down and speak to any item not on the agenda? And I don't think I see anybody, so let me just ask if there's anybody online at this point. Okay, so there's nobody online. Thank you very much. And I'll just make one comment with regard to the testimony that we received here on item number 9. As a reminder, I've said this many times over, I'll just simply say it again. Keep in mind, there is a full-time fraud investigator in the district attorney's office. If you think there's something wrong with a voter registration, if you think there's something wrong that has gone wrong in voting in El Paso County, please contact that investigator and let them do their work. Please go and reach out to them and bring your evidence so that they can conduct an investigation. Thank you very much. All right, let's move on to item number 10.
Item number 10 is the called-up consent calendar. I'm unaware of any items for the called-up consent calendar.
All right, very good. Item number 11.
Item number 11 are department and committee reports and non-action items. I'm unaware of any such reports or non-action items.
All right, and item number 12.
Item number 12 is the addendum, and we have no items on the addendum. And Mr. Chair, as announced earlier, we are going to recess at this point to call up the work session regarding the Hancock Commons tax increment financing request. After that, we'll reconvene the meeting to vote on number 13A, 1 through 2, which is the executive session.
Okay, very good. So at this point, I'd like to recess this 9 a.m. meeting. And just a moment. Yes, do you want to take a break? Okay, and we'll recess the 9 a.m. meeting. We'll take a quick 5-minute break, and then we will call up the work session and initiate the work session. and proceed and call. Oh, I will stand by. Thank you. Just let me know when you're ready. Okay, very good. All right, let's call this work session to order. And again, the 9 a.m. meeting is in recess, and we will recall that meeting for the remainder of the agenda for that after this work session is completed. The agenda for today is the Hancock Commons tax increment financing request, and I'll just ask our county attorney if you have any comments or if we're ready to proceed.
Fantastic. Good morning, Commissioners. Crystal Latier, Executive Director of Economic Development for El Paso County. This morning we are hearing a work session item. So just for situational awareness for anyone in the audience or watching online, this work session is a non-voting item informational regarding a future request coming to the county pertaining to tax increment financing. So at this time, we will call up the development team and the Colorado Springs Urban Renewal Authority Executive Director, Jariah Walker. They will give a brief presentation that will then be followed by some remarks from your El Paso County staff. So at this time, we'll call up Mr. Walker.
Great, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Walker.
Good morning, Commissioners. Hope you're all doing well today. Excited to be here to present the Hancock Commons Urban Renewal Project. This project means a lot to the Colorado Springs Urban Renewal Authority because it's another one that we've secured on the southeast side of town. Southeast side is a town that we've been hyper focused on to make sure that we get our urban renewal projects in this community as well. And we think we've got another great opportunity in Hancock Commons. The main public improvement on this project is really the realigning of Hancock Street, which has been a long part of the county's and city's transportation plans over many, many years. And this particular parcel, while it has been, there's been a desire to develop on it, it's unable to really go any further than it had than just being vacant land, because frankly, without this road being realigned and some of the drainage issues being taken care of, et cetera, nobody's been able to get it done. And so I always tell you that when we look at projects, there has to be the but-for analysis. That but-for urban renewal dollars, the project wouldn't be able to go forward. And that is absolutely the case on Hancock Commons. The other thing I want to point out on this particular project is you'll notice in this presentation, there's a parcel to the north. And when we go through our slide deck, it'll be outlined in yellow. But that is a property that will now gain some road frontage from this realigning of Hancock. Now, it's not part of the urban renewal boundaries, but what that means is that now that property is going to be immediately developable. And so we actually see that as a great enticement to this urban renewal plan that really for all the taxing entities, because a property that was not able to be developed, that is not within the URA, now will be able to be marketable and be able to create something special with it as well. Obviously, with this project, we came to the board not too long ago for an affordable housing project on the southeast side. This is not an affordable housing project. This will be more attainable market rate housing. But another big thing, and really when we presented to District 2, it was their most desired aspect of the project was the retail component to it. I'm not sure how many of you have been on the southeast side just looking to go somewhere for a cup of coffee, or even to, maybe try a new microbrewery. They don't exist on the southeast side. There is no independent coffee shop to go in and just sit down and have a cup of coffee on the southeast side. It was something that I couldn't believe. But this project checks some of those boxes, and it creates a walkable environment for people in the community to be able to enjoy a cup of coffee, to be able to have a slice of pizza, or potentially enjoy a microbrew beer as well. So lot of neat aspects to the project. I do want to say I've got EPS, our consultant team. They are online. They're out of Denver, so they're on Microsoft Teams. So if anyone has any questions to the methods of how these numbers came together, they are online. I also have David Neville, our attorney in the audience. He obviously writes all these agreements that are in front of you. And then I have Ray O'Sullivan with the development team, who I'm going to invite up next to go through the slide deck. And then, of course, all of us are here to answer any questions that any of you may have. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce Ray. Ray, come on up and we'll get through the presentation.
Thank you.
Good morning, commissioners, and thanks for taking the time this morning to consider our project. I'm going to go through the slide presentation, and my son would normally be here with me, but we also are on city council today for this project for rezone and master plan, because we're realigning the Hancock Expressway to go due east to connect to Powers Boulevard, actually Chelton, and take that dangerous, according to the county, dangerous curve out of that road. So Jay's at city council while I'm here. So without further ado, I think, do I just roll through this? Is that? Click? Yep. Okay, so the project is located at the southeast corner of Hancock and future Hancock Expressway realignment and Chelton. The project is about 20 acres. And so just off script for a second, I tied this property up several years ago from three gentlemen that had owned it for about 20 years. And they had probably been in contract 6 or 7 times, mostly with the national type home builders, to sell the property. And after everyone had gone through their due diligence, they all came to the same conclusion that the extraordinary infrastructure costs for the project dwarfed the price of the land and made the project basically, uneconomical. So what I did when I decided to drop the project, because the sellers had let me tie the property up for, about 180 days while we went through a lot of planning and engineering and different exercises and going to the pre-application meetings to try to figure out how this thing was going to develop. I told them, as I was terminating the contract, exactly what I would need to do to be able to proceed with the project. And it was 2 things. One, put in a metropolitan district to help pay for some of those infrastructure costs, and then ask Colorado Springs Urban Renewal Authority for their support, which ultimately leads us here. And the infrastructure costs are about 2.5 times what we ended up acquiring the land for. But the gentleman had gone through this drill so many times with various buyers that they decided to give me the time and allow me the grace to try to put these items together. The Metro District has been approved. So it's about 20 acres of residential as an infill project. We're going to do about 72 townhomes, and actually PHI, Nick Panunzio's company, bought that part of the property. He's the low-cost provider for housing in this town, I would say. He's got basically 2 products he builds. They're both 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, but he's in that mid $300,000 to low $400,000 price point, which is very difficult to get to now. And my company's going to do the apartments there, which we are going to apply for HUD financing, but it's not a subsidized product, our project. But having said that, if you look at the apartments that are being built downtown, most of them are highly amenitized, urban type apartments with structured parking, and they're approaching $350,000 to $400,000 a door just to build. And because of the amount of land that we have, we're able to just do the typical suburban style apartments, woody walk up with surface parking and surface, carports and garages and things like that. And then as Soraya mentioned, there is a retail component to do some neighborhood commercial there. And, there are a lot of rooftops in that immediate area, and nothing really walking distance to go to for just a local cup of coffee, whatever. So I'm not sure we're going to get to 12,000 square feet of retail, but the project does allow for it, but I'm thinking something between 6,000 and 12,000 feet. So I don't know how much you want me to get into the details of the development team and all that, but we have our engineering team, our planning team, and you can see it's Andrea Barlow at NES and Ray Perez at Civil, and Maria Larson is our civil engineering contractor. And she was kind enough to put together all of the quantities and budgets for the infrastructure, which somehow is not part of this package. We didn't get it to you in time. It came out to about $4.88 million. If you see the infrastructure cost estimates, it includes some of the infrastructure that the city of Colorado Springs has agreed to do along Chelton. They're requiring us to abandon the curve in Hancock, and then we'll build Hancock through and put in the stanchions for the traffic signal. They'll finish the traffic signal and complete Chelton to the south to make the whole road system work properly. Let's see. The site, as you can see Academy Boulevard running north-south on the left side of it. And so it's just as it swings toward Milton Proby, we'll take that curve out and it drops down and goes toward the airport. So the site, in my opinion, even, southeast end of town, infill project, I mean, it's really well located for people that, a lot of people that work downtown drive out to Powers Boulevard for their apartments. And so it's pretty close to downtown, but also pretty close to the airport, Amazon and all that. So probably, 6 to 10 minutes each direction. Here's a little better shot of it, and you can see the curve of Hancock that we're going to eliminate, and then where it's kind of like green, red, and yellow, we'll take the road, to connect to Chelton. And that parcel where it says parcel at the very top there in white, that's about 8 acres zone PBC. So it's a retail type commercial property, which really has no legitimate access at this time. So that neighbor was kind enough to let me buy some right of way for him so I could build the road for $170,000, and not the road, but the right of way, so that he could get access to his property in the future. But Jariah's point was that is potentially a retail center that would be not part of the urban renewal boundary. Yeah.
Yes, Commissioner, go ahead.
Can you go back to the last slide? Or if you can. Well, the question in general.
I might be able to. Hang on one sec. There's a little arrow here.
If you can, it was more, okay, so did you mention earlier that you said you're paying for some road? What portion of the road are you paying for?
This little area where it says Hancock alignment.
Right.
This yellow band there, the county and the city over the years have required people, as they map this property, to dedicate right away for the future extension of Hancock Expressway to the east. This parcel just sat dormant for years and years and years that people live in, Ventura, California or something. And so there was no requirement for them to dedicate that. So I negotiated to acquire that 50-foot wide strip by about 800 and some feet. So about 40-some thousand feet for $4 a foot. Right. And so I could build the road.
Okay, so you're building that road that's going to connect the west to the east portion of Hancock Expressway?
Yeah, if you can see the arrow at the end of this red to the left, it goes all the way across. Okay. It'll square up there, and then I'll abandon this portion of Hancock.
And you're paying for that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and the purpose of my rezone and master plan amendment and concept plan amendment is because when we take out this road, there could be houses or apartment buildings that are in two different zones. So it's not really technically a change of use. It's more of a cleanup, and the city asked me to do that. And we're supposed to be on consent today, but we got pulled off consent at Planning Commission, and I'm imagining we're getting pulled off consent at City Council too. So here's the site plan that we're presenting to the city, and have presented it through a couple of the LDTC, where they get all the department heads in the room and they give you their input. And so this is a result of about 2 years of work. So you can see the retail corner at the top right, and there's room for a couple of buildings. We've got a lot of open space. The project will be tied together where we abandon that right away. There's still some kind of a gas main that goes through there, so there'll still be like a green belt that runs through the project. And then on the southwest part is townhomes, which is consistent with the historic zoning dating back to the 1980s, and nice transition to the land uses around it. There's really nothing to the north. There'll be some open space and drainage here, and then 180 units apartments. And I'll show you, I think in future slides, what those are going to look like. Yeah, it'll be a nice looking project. But again, just by the nature of the construction, we can be, kind of the low cost provider for apartment rents, but not be a subsidized project per se. And then here's a look at Nick's townhomes. He actually did a project, Nick Panunzio, he did a project immediately east of this, and it's probably, 10 or 15 years old. If you drove through it today, it's immaculate. Because of the covenant controls and all that, the project still looks really quite nice. And these are just some, this is the shopping center that I did with my late friend Sam Guadagnoli down in South Nevada next to the Chick-fil-A. And then Jariah had mentioned a little shop that he likes with a pizza and cookie place and a little brewery, just for ideas for doing something more neighborhood oriented for the commercial. And then so the estimated public improvements are about $5.5 million. I do have a full budget for the $4.8 million for our portion of that. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get it into this slide. We sent it too late yesterday. But I can provide that if somebody really was inspired. And by the way, a lot of those costs have probably gone up in the last year and a half. Concrete went up about $20 a yard in the last 6 months. So we're going to realign Hancock, abandon and demo the old Hancock Expressway. And I do want to mention the channel improvements. This part of Hancock, the infrastructure that was built under Hancock that was theoretically mating to the channel system that comes from the north fails. We get 15 or 20 inches of rain, but it all comes in the same few hours. And that part of Hancock has a tendency to overtop and flood. And it also put a lot of this property in the floodway. So by us realigning Hancock, we're going to finish the channel system. We're going through FEMA to map it out of the floodplain and also correct that anomaly so that there won't be flooding in that. We'll build the new roadway correctly and it'll be channelized properly. So that is another hazardous type area that we believe we're curing. So the project goals provide workforce housing in a location that's got good proximity to downtown and the Amazon area and the airport area, which somebody said there's going to be like 26,000 jobs there. I hope that's true. Complete the realignment of Hancock Expressway that fulfills the traffic goal for both the city and the county. And this comes from a lot of work with your traffic engineering teams and also the city. Create new commercial corner with retail to fill the gap for the local area. And that's really all I have. Happy to answer any questions. I'm asking for your participation for the mills that the county would otherwise get in the urban renewal designation.
Okay, any questions from any of the commissioners? Yes, please, go ahead.
Well, thank you. And I've got some questions for staff and perhaps later as well, but I do want to thank you for this project. I actually live in the homes immediately east that the same premier developer developed. And so it's a good project in the area. I live right there, so I know a lot about the traffic issues that may or may not become because of this, but I have a lot of great insight on the traffic patterns and that curve that you're talking about because I have to take it every day. So appreciate this being brought forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for, okay, and no one else. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Blake. Commissioners, at this time, we will quickly review some comments from staff regarding the request. First part of this presentation really goes over the contents of the projects, which we've heard straight from the developer, so I'll move through those quickly. As we've heard today, this is located in Commissioner District 4, comprised of just under 18 acres of undeveloped land. That Hancock Expressway, which we've talked about in length today, will be rerouted and aligned near the north end of the property. And then we have kind of that mixed use proposal that includes apartments, townhomes, and commercial space. Again, for reference, the site location and project renderings. And at this time, we will go over the specific request to the county regarding the sales tax and the property tax, and I'll turn it over to our CFO, Nikki Simmons.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Nikki Simmons, Chief Financial Officer. For this project for Hancock Commons, the developer is requesting 100% of the county's mill levy on property tax for the 25-year period. It is expected to generate approximately $1.2 million. Currently, the property has a base tax, a total of $31,500 over that same time frame. As you're aware, in all URA requests, we recalculate the developer's numbers. And there's nothing that was done wrong. We just know a little bit more about our mill levy and where we're at in temporary mill levy reductions and our tabor constraints and things and better internal projections. And so on this next slide, we actually recalculate the numbers. We anticipate the tax increment to generate $1.9 million over 25 years. That's slightly different than the original calculations. The cumulative base property taxes being $30,018, and an average per year of the TIF being $75,275. A question that always comes up is what is percentage of our overall mill levy collections would this be? And over the 25 years, we calculate that to be approximately 0.6%. So less than 1/10 of 1% would be in this property. They also are requesting 50% of the county's 1% sales tax. As a reminder, we do not allow for our 0.23% public safety sales tax to even be considered in TIF requests. So this is just on the 1% general tax, and they're requesting 50% of that. On-site sales over the 25 years is estimated to be approximately $144 million, which would mean a 50% TIF of that would be $722,000 for an average of $57,800 per year. Again, the overall percentage of the county's 1% tax over that same 25 years, it would be about 1/100th of a percent of the entire collections of sales tax within our county. Over that same time frame, the county, if our public safety sales tax were to continue during those whole 25 years, that amount would be calculated at approximately $330,000 of revenue that the county would retain for public safety purposes. So overall, the total property tax estimate is about $1.9 million, $722,000 for sales tax for a total TIF of $2.6 million. I do have one correction to the slide that I just found out today. There is a metro district in this area, and so we will have to come back to you with a calculation of the impact on our specific ownership taxes, and we will have that number for you shortly. So that is all I have for the financial portion. And I think Crystal is going to address this slide.
If you might ask, if I have a question for you. So you said there is a metro district. So
there is.
Is the name or purpose and so forth? Do you have that?
I would defer that to Mr. Sullivan. It's from his comments this morning that I heard that, and I just confirmed that there is a metro district in this property. And so I will have to, that's about the extent of my knowledge on it. So Mr. Sullivan would have to address the metro district.
Yeah, if you might. And obviously, there'll have to be some numbers calculations on it, but I'm just interested in what is the Metro District and what was it originally built for?
Well, the Metro District is put in place. We haven't activated it yet because we don't have all of our approvals. But it's the idea of the Metro District is to support a bond that we're going to use to do most of the infrastructure. We're not going to be able to cover it all, but I think the bonding capacity is something in the neighborhood of $4 million.
Okay, so this is something that's been recently created, I guess.
Yeah, I think the mills were 40 mills. It was 30 capital and 10 for operations, and it was approved under the old guidelines for the city about 1.5 years ago. I know they're increasing the mill opportunity now, but ours, we're already done and approved. And I did tell the city council, and it'll be mentioned again today at our public hearing, that we were seeking support of CSURA.
Okay, thank you.
Am I answering your question properly?
Yeah.
I think it's Hancock Commons Metropolitan District.
Yeah, my question was really more, was it something that was created a long time ago and had become defunct at this point, or was still serving a purpose? But actually, what you've just described for me is it's actually newer.
Yeah, it's created specifically to
designed for the project, actually.
Yeah, specifically for these improvements for this project.
Okay, thank you.
Fantastic. So in conclusion, some impacts on the community. The additional 12 to 14,000 square feet of commercial space will allow for retail, restaurants, and neighborhood service businesses to open, as we've heard already today. Jobs will be created. Sales tax revenue will be generated on site, that retail component. And it's important to note that this project will alleviate the burden or infrastructure commitments possibly by the city, county, or PPRTA because of the proposed infrastructure and realignment of the Hancock Expressway. And as we've already heard, while the proposed housing is not subsidized, the additional approximate 150 to 180 apartments and 72 to 87 townhomes to the housing market will assist us with adding more inventory to our supply during these tough affordable housing times.
Yes, Commissioner, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I was going to bring it up later, but the third line actually brings up my concern with, not with the project, but with the city. So very, very specific. So I don't know if we have information on PPRTA for this project. This, I believe, is a named project on PPRTA. And my question will be, I don't know if we have that answered yet, but I want it answered before the vote on this, is what was PPRTA supposed to do for this portion of the road? Because the statement here is absolutely my concern. The project will alleviate the burden on infrastructure commitments by the city, county, or Pikes Peak RTA. So a statement here is they're alleviating the cost burden of paying for the straightening of the road. Well, it's not alleviating it from the county if we're going to provide TIF to the project that alleviates the city's potential promise to straighten out this road. The city might, I don't know because I haven't had that question answered, might be pushing costs to straighten the road to the developer and the county. So I want to make sure that question is adequately addressed before the next vote, because if the PPRTA project for the city was supposed to straighten this out, they are pushing the cost to the developer, of which we would be participating in. So again, I don't know the answers to it yet, but I want that answered fully before I take a vote on this and whenever it comes back.
Yeah, I couldn't quite understand why the PPRTA wasn't handling a project of this scope, and also why the city was asking a developer to make these improvements. And their response to me was, we will take care of it, and we're not asking you to do it. It's a requirement of the project if it gets done, but the scheduling of when those improvements were going to be done, they couldn't guarantee that it was going to be done in the next 10 to 20 years. And it was an earmarked project in El Paso County, and that was kind of the genesis of this, that the city was requiring me to do it because it was on the county's. Again, this is a result of me going to multiple meetings with staff and sharing their feedback with you.
And again, and I appreciate this, and this is absolutely not on you, but what you've just said on the record, if the city has said this is something that may be 10 or 15 years out, PPRTA has been approved on a 10-year basis. This is something they have promised within a much shorter timeline than 10 to 15 years. If it is on a PPRTA list. Again, I have some unanswered questions. I just want to make sure they are answered adequately. And this is absolutely nothing to do about the project. This is on how the city may be, and the county paying for something the city might be responsible for. Thank you.
Okay, and just so you know, the kind of the order of which my discovery took place was that this project did not make the cut for funding under PPRTA on this round. And that it would, the landowner and then myself as the potential buyer, now I'm the landowner, we're not going to be beneficiaries of this round of the PPRTA. So we'd have to hope for a future round. And I wanted to try to develop the project in this lifetime. And so I said, well, there's a couple other ways we could skin this. And that was the approach that I took on this, and that's why I bought the property. So, and I understand your concerns, but it's not that they weren't planning to do it, but they also, it wasn't a hard requirement necessarily of the project. There were other ways the project could be developed. They just don't work very well. And the kind of the last straw for me was not being able to solve the floodplain issues without realigning Hancock, then I've got a project that's got 30% of the ground in the floodway. And if you look at it, it doesn't make any sense that it's in the floodplain. It's being flooded by a failed under pipe or whatever, however you describe that. There's 2 pipes that cross
Culvert,
under Hancock that are not sized properly. And then in the system was not designed properly to handle the historic flows.
Now, it is my understanding it did make the cut, because when we met, I was able to read through the ballot language specifically to my colleague. So we will need, Jariah, that cleared up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope that shed some light on it. So.
You know, I appreciate that. And I appreciate the question from Commissioner Gonzalez. And there's, it appears to me there's some due diligence work to do there. Yes, Commissioner, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a question, actually. I'm so sorry that you walked
I'm
all the way up there and you sat down, but so you were mentioning that there are some pipes and those are the problems. Whose pipes are those?
Well, I mean, I would assume they're in the city's jurisdiction. And so there was a point in time when that system was all built, and the consensus was that it was designed to properly transition from the channel to underground when the Hancock Expressway was extended. And the fact is it failed. And it fails periodically. And anybody that lives in that area knows that once in a while you're racing down Hancock and all of a sudden you're hitting some huge puddles of water. So, it was an opportunity for engineering to have, as this project came in, to have somebody fix it. That would be me.
I appreciate that, and I just want to echo the sentiments of Commissioner Gonzalez here. I know it feels like we're asking a lot of questions of you on this, but it's not related to the project so much as the other things that are going around in terms of the relationship with the city and PPRTA and how we're figuring those things out. But I really appreciate all of your explanation.
Okay, thanks. And, ultimately, if I was the landowner, the previous landowners, they every time they tried to sell their property, they ran into the same things, right? But they had no mechanism to force the city to go out and fix these things. And they didn't have the wherewithal to, they probably bought the ground for $20,000 30 years ago, if you look at the tax rolls, and they didn't have the wherewithal to go solve these problems or even necessarily know about them until their potential buyers were telling them about it. So there's no mechanism for the city to force them to fix it unless they came and asked for approvals, and they made it a condition of those approvals. And then there was no way for the landowner to force the city to do it. And we're all sitting around hoping that PPRTA or some regional authority comes in and decides that it's time to fix these things. And we can all point to projects around town that are getting done and we wonder why, and the ones that aren't getting done and we wonder why. But somebody's making those decisions, and hopefully mostly good. So, but they've left this on me now. And so it rolls over to you. And I hope there's a point of fairness here, because this was one of the goals of the county, supposedly, to have this road realigned, and maybe that's because previously a lot of the property to the east was in the county before it was annexed into the city. So it's just kind of fallen through the cracks. And that's why there's a pretty nice 20-acre site sitting in the middle of town that no one's been able to develop.
Great. Again, I appreciate the question from Commissioner Gonzalez, and it does sound to me like, and I think we've got concurrence from the board here, that we've got some research to do to figure out where this is going to go or what should be done.
Right. Before I walk away, any other questions?
Yes.
Didn't mean to do that, by the way.
No, you were very efficient at moving back to the seat, I'll tell you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from any of the commissioners? Okay,
Thank you again.
Appreciate your time. All right. What else do we have?
Fantastic. Well, that concludes the presentation. So just ending with questions as a reminder, this is a non-voting item today, but the formal request will come at a future Board of County Commissioner agenda.
Okay, very good. Any other comments or questions from any of the commissioners? Yes,
I do just want to give a comment to, again, say how much I appreciate this process and how it's changed and how valuable this was. We obviously found some things that we wanted to dig into a little bit deeper. So thank you for all the work that you've done to give us the opportunity to really fully look into each one of these.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, I want to highlight that I think this is a very valuable potential new asset to the community. Again, my concern here is item number 3, and it's the whole statement there at the very end, and could enable other governing entities, the city, to allocate financial resources to other projects. That's great, but if they're asking potentially the county to pay for some of their project so that they can then spend it somewhere else. I'm not, I want to clarify that question. And so, and I've asked it before, I want to make sure that this gets clarified, that number 3 does concern me on what we are being asked to provide funding for. If it's for the infrastructure for the project, or if this is really to then allow the city to put money elsewhere. Thank you.
And I believe we have Dry's commitment to get some additional information before this is brought back to you for a formal vote. So thank you so much.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And before we conclude then, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, another comment or question? Yes.
Yes, just a
Commissioner
quick
Bremer.
question. I also appreciate the process and the ability to ask these questions before there is a vote, have a public forum for the work session. You know, this area, this is one of many, many kind of revitalization efforts that are taking place in this part of town. This seems to be a well-designed one, well-planned one. And I'll just note that while it is, this entire project is entirely in Commissioner Gonzalez's District 4. It's immediately adjacent by less than half a mile to my district as well. And so I appreciate kind of the ability to have a big picture look at what's happening immediately adjacent, because if you're talking about commercial, not just the residential space, but if you're talking about the commercial space and the retail, that really helps determine what the whole kind of larger community in that part of town looks like. And I think it's great.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Bremer and Commissioner Gonzalez.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. And so one more clarification for staff as well. So if it comes out that this is not what was not supposed to be paid for by PPRTA, okay, understand. If it was supposed to, and my concerns are walked through, one of the things I would ask was, because PPRTA funds between entities moving around does happen. So we have front-loaded portions of costs for other aspects, for other entities, for the city. They've, I think, paid for us, we've paid for them. So if this is something where the project couldn't get done because of timing, and so it made sense to have them pay for it, but it was, again, we haven't verified that, it's supposed to have been done by the city later, then perhaps we could still look at some way that the city, the county perhaps participates in this at the recommended or close to the recommended request, but then gets backfilled by the city's PPRTA share if indeed it was supposed to have been done by PPRTA. So I would look to that as a possible condition or amendment or agreement, IGA, as options if, again, my concerns are valid or not valid. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right. Any other comments or questions from any of the commissioners? All right, very good. And I would like our county attorney to make a statement about the work session. We talked about it briefly a couple minutes ago.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just in conclusion, I'd like to reiterate what Ms. Latier had said, is this informal work session is a non-voting item, that it was conducted for the purposes of public discussion regarding this matter. Thank you.
All right, very good. So seeing no further business on the work session, I'll conclude that work session. And let us go ahead and recall the remainder of the agenda for our 9 a.m. meeting. So let's go ahead and get started with that. And I believe we have the next item. But actually, before I continue, just make sure we're good with the clerk as far as recording. We're all in good shape? Okay, very good. Let's go ahead now and address item 13 at our 9 a.m. meeting.
Item 13 on the 9 a.m. meeting is 13A. Pursuant to CRS Section 24-6-402, 4B and E, the County Attorney's Office is requesting an executive session with the Board of County Commissioners regarding a proposed amendment number 1 to the county's contract with the Colorado Department of Public Safety, Division of Criminal Justice, Community Corrections, through which the state provides the County Community Corrections Program funding, as well as proposed contracts between the county and vendors CAE/GEO and Comcor Inc. to include number 1, providing legal advice on specific legal questions related to the above referenced matter, and 2, determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators regarding the above referenced matters to be conducted by Terry Sample, the Senior Assistant County Attorney.
Thank you very much for that reading. Are there any comments or questions from the commissioners before I ask for a motion regarding item 13? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I move we go into executive session.
Second?
All right, that's been moved and seconded. Let's go ahead and proceed with the vote. Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Commissioner Geithner?
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Aye.
Commissioner Bremer?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 5-0. Let's go ahead and reconvene for our executive session. Would you all be willing to indulge about 15 minutes? So it'd be about 10:45. Okay, 10:45 upstairs. Thank you so much.